Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of Spider-Man: Homecoming. Today was the first, worldwide release, or like the big main release day. But seen it last night, just because my movie theater, they always tend to play, a few showings of it, of a movie the night before. I know other people have seen it by now too, so. I went and seen this last night with my girlfriend, my parents, as we usually do with, comic book movies. And let me just say right off the bat that I am a big Spider-Man fan. He's been one of my all-time favorites since I was a little kid. I got a shirt on right now. I really like the Tobey Maguire films. 3 is a bit of a mixed bag, to say the least. But I still really hold the first and second films in really high regard. They're still some of my all-time favorite comic book movies, for sure. And I did like the Andrew Garfield movies. Andrew Garfield's proven himself to be a very good actor. There were definitely some issues with his films, but I think, as far as his performance goes, I thought that was, he did pretty well. Now, we did see a little bit of Tom Holland before, of course, in Captain America: Civil War. And, I was looking forward to it as a Spider-Man fan, because, let me just say right off the bat, Tom Holland does a really nice job in this role as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. People always say, oh, Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker, but an awful Spider-Man, or Garfield is a good Spider-Man, but an awful Peter Parker. I think Tom Holland has probably found more of a balance with people, it seems. And he does do pretty well, because Tom Holland seems like a really cool kid. We're both 21 years old. He's like 3 days older than me, I think, though. He's able to mix and convey a really good mix of what makes Peter Parker, and what makes Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Am I going to say he's my favorite Spider-Man already? No, I can't quite go that far yet. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what else Tom Holland can do in the role. I was saying to my girlfriend, quite a few times that I'm more curious about the sequels to this movie than this movie itself to start. Because, Tom Holland's great in this movie. He really nails the personality of Peter Parker, in Spider-Man. Let me tell you, just the quips, the way he talks, his voice, the way he delivers lines and everything like that. It's really, really on point. It made me feel like I'm reading one of those, funnier, Spider-Man issues or something like that. And then there are moments where you get to see, kind of the heart of the character, and Tom Holland does pretty good with that too. But we'll talk more about those moments in the movie in a few minutes. But, before I dive into more about that, of course the basic story is it takes place, shortly after Civil War, but we do get a clip of it, of the aftermath of the first Avengers movie, after the battle with Chitauri in Manhattan and everything. Of course, Michael Keaton plays Adrian Toomes, the Vulture. We see, how he really has a resentment towards Tony Stark and some of the people running things, in that area. And so he kind of sets out to be, I heard someone call him, like Heisenberg in a way. He's trying to do it for his, family. But at the same time, it is sort of like an ego of his as well. But at the same time, also, his motivations, aren't just, oh, I want to destroy the planet, oh, I want to destroy this city, it's not like that. So, Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes is probably one of the slightly better villains of the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far. I want to say he's like a great villain, but he's definitely one of the better ones. It's not as like cookie cutter, I guess. Of course, Michael Keaton, he's loved by a lot of people, for, his role as as Batman and everything like that. I don't put his Batman, quite on the pedestal that some people do, but he does seem like he is a fairly good actor, and I think he was fine here. And a lot of it is like a coming-of-age story. Peter Parker's only supposed to be, 15 years old in this movie. Still right in the middle of high school, still trying to balance that part of his life. He has Marisa Tomei as Aunt May. Marisa Tomei as Aunt May, she's alright, but, I still kind of prefer the one in the Sam Raimi films. But I understand they had to make Aunt May younger because Peter's still so young and everything like that. So it just sort of it makes sense logic-wise, I guess. And a lot of this movie isn't spent with Spider-Man. A lot of it is more focused on how Peter's juggling all of this. And part of me was upset that we were getting like a even younger Spider-Man because we've seen Spider-Man in high school before. And I was just like, okay, Spider-Man grows up eventually, in the comics and certain cartoons and stuff. But here we are back in high school again. But I ate my words a little bit because we don't really see him dealing with his life in school and as Spider-Man like this to this extent in any of the other movies. It really feels like this is like the essential, like really early story for Spider-Man, and I'll give the credit there. Of course, he also has a crush and a love interest in. Let me just see. Okay, yeah. Oh. Okay, apparently I can't find the cast, but hold on a second, guys. Just give me a second. Okay. Laura Harrier as Liz Allen. And she's this popular girl in school, but she's supposed to be one of the popular ones that's also, nice, luckily. And he's sort of, a bit off, with how he goes about, showing his interest in her. Then you also have, like, your, just lost it again. Okay. Why did this disappear here? Oh, that's great. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Zendaya, I guess she is on some Disney shows, as my girlfriend told me. She's Michelle Jones. She calls herself, spoilers, MJ at the end of the movie. And, she's very weird. She's really book smart, but, just the way she talks and communicates with people, she's not your typical Mary Jane. I'm not sure if she's actually supposed to be Mary Jane, or if it was just like a nod to, for her to say she calls herself, or her friends call her MJ. But I think it could be a different Mary Jane instead of like your Kirsten Dunst, from the other trilogy and stuff. Yeah, there is a lot of humor in this movie, and almost too much sometimes. I get that it's that Spider-Man can have really light stories, and this is kind of like the spirit of the character at times. But sometimes I feel like the humor is a bit much. I will say I did laugh, though. I'm not gonna lie and say none of it worked for me, but some of it actually really did. And I'll admit I was laughing a good handful of times for sure. But there's just so much humor that sometimes it felt like it was becoming like a I don't know if I want to say a parody. Chris Stuckmann, guy whose videos I love, he called it sometimes it feels like a cartoon. Not just with the humor, but just with like how inconsequential some of the action feels. Like the action is good, it looks good. Spider-Man does Spider-Man things, as Chris Stuckmann said, but it just doesn't feel like as intense as like your Green Goblin and Spidey fight scene in like the first Maguire film, or like the Doc Ock battle. Yeah, it's really not on that level. There's like one instance where the plane sort of crashes after Peter's able to steer it away from the bulk of the city, and then there's like this muffled sound where he's kind of lost his hearing for a second. Then you see like the Vulture like flying towards him. That actually felt kind of creepy and almost a little bit intense. I wish the whole fight scene was that way, because they really could have had Peter have trouble hearing and then just have the Vulture flying and hitting him from all directions or something. But no, it kind of just goes back into its basically like action scene mode after that. Which I guess he would get his hearing back pretty quickly because he's Spider-Man and everything. But still, there's no real like memorable action sequence to me in this movie like there were in some of the older films. And again, it just does it does feel kind of too light at times. I get that it's supposed to be like that in certain instances with the character. But, and back to Tom Holland, he does do well, like I said, with the personality and everything. There are some moments of heart in this movie, and that's what I was waiting for. I can like the humor for a little while, But what I really want to see from Spider-Man is to show his heart and his willpower and everything like that. And we do get a couple moments of that, when this ceiling, this whole like concrete, thing falls on top of him. He's actually, he's actually really panicking. He's again just 15 years old. He's not experienced at all, but he's really panicking. He's kind of desperate. But then you kind of see that side of him, that Spider-Man side of him come out, and he's able to lift, the thing off of himself, which I thought was one of the strongest moments of the movie. And I think there's that moment, and then another moment here and there as well. I was kind of hoping for more of that, but that's why I want to see Tom Holland play the character for a while, because I can tell he has some decent acting chops for it. And I want to see him in more Spider-Man movies so he can see the character kind of grow with him as Tom Holland gets older over the years, and have the stories and the sort of style become more and more mature. It's still retaining the humor, of course. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any humor. I'm not saying it should be dark and doom and gloom and stuff like that. But so the moments of that did work though when they are there, luckily. Let's see, and there's Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr., of course. Luckily, he's not in it a whole lot. He doesn't overwhelm the rest of the film or overshadow Spider-Man like some people were worrying about. Pretty much what you see of him in the trailer is what you see of him in the movie, minus an extra little scene or two. But he's definitely not overdone or overused in the movie. He doesn't really take the spotlight or anything, so that's good. And you also have, like I mentioned, Liz Allen, Laura Harrier earlier. She's okay. Sometimes I felt like her acting was a little bit off, and I didn't really care for the, love interest, that much as far as her character goes. Then his friend, let me see. Why wouldn't they have him listed here? Okay, hold on a second, guys. Waiting while the page loads. Okay. Yeah, Ned, played by Jacob Batalon. He's fun. He's kind of our comic relief and kind of a comedy movie, really. He's a bit, again, he's kind of overutilized again, like some of the rest of the humor in the movie. But he's fun to have there. Although, I kind of prefer the Harry Osborn dynamic, and it seems like they kind of just change stuff in this movie at times. Then you have Jon Favreau playing Happy Hogan, associate of Tony Stark's, to keep tabs on Peter. He's fun to watch too. I did like him, I'll say that. And you have Tony Revolori as Flash Thompson. A lot of people were pissed at him playing Flash, because Flash is supposed to be this big, muscular, good-looking, jock guy, and he's just kind of this little guy. Just happens to be a douchebag. But there are kids like that. There can be kids that, feel a really good sense of entitlement and arrogance about themselves, and they try to mess with the nerds just to, I don't know. But there are, a lot of times the assholes and the bullies of the school aren't always the quarterback or something like that, So I'm kind of fine with it, but he doesn't really stick out as much to me as he probably would have if they had just gone with the usual kind of Flash Thompson character. The rest of the acting's fine, like I said. Robert Downey Jr. does fine, getting the idea into Peter's head that if he's nothing out of the suit, he shouldn't be wearing it. And, we get that moment of Peter actually coming out of that and, showing here that he is, even when he's in this, homemade suit of his own and stuff like that. He does sort of prove himself to Iron Man. And at the end, he does get his chance to be in the Avengers, finally. But he chooses, to keep, kind of defending the people who are kind of overlooked, not just these global threats, but also, like I said, he's still in Queens. He wants to take care of, the little guy, or, like I said, more so the people that get overlooked instead of going about on all these big missions with the Avengers. That's Peter Parker. He doesn't need that. He's very humble. Sure, eventually, he's going to fight in Infinity War and everything like that, but he doesn't need the limelight, and he doesn't really, feel that same urge to, go about and just fly around with them. instead. But I'm probably not explaining that the right way. I'm not the movie reviewer to go by the way, if you can tell already if you watch this far into the video. But overall, I did enjoy this movie. It's definitely not my favorite Spider-Man movie. My favorite would probably either be, the first two Maguire films, or maybe parts of the Garfield films to a certain extent. But I think this is a good start. I am eager to see another Spider-Man Holland film for sure. We're probably not going to get that until after the Avengers Infinity War stuff, unfortunately. But I am curious to see more of Holland's Spider-Man, over like more Thor and Iron Man and Captain America, so that says something. I was pleased with this movie, though, don't get me wrong. I think Tom Holland can be a good Spider-Man. I just need to see more of him. I want to see more of, that heart from the character, while retaining some of this humor we got in the movie. Some of the humor is kind of overdone at times, and the love interest thing didn't really work, besides the whole coming of age angle. Michael Keaton was pretty good, as not as cliche of a villain as we've gotten in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far. I did like him at the end being asked, who Spider-Man really is. And he just says if he knew, he would have killed him already. Meaning maybe he's protecting him for his daughter's sake, because he knows how his daughter feels about him. But at the same time, maybe he's just wanting Peter for himself when he gets out. So that could be the case too. But we also have like Matt Gargan in the movie, Scorpion. And then we have like Shocker and stuff, and those kind of felt like shoehorned in a little bit. It's like in passing. Well, yeah, I'm this other Spider-Man villain. But still a really good time. If I had to rate it, I'd rate it. I'd give it a B+, I think. Definitely a good time, despite like some of the little gripes I was just mentioning. I definitely recommend seeing this if you're a fan of the MCU films, or a big Spider-Man fan like I am. Let me know what you guys thought about this if you've seen it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, like, subscribe, and let me know how you guys feel like this stacks up to the other Spidey films we've gotten over the years. And so follow. I already told you the link thing. Peace. Sorry for the sloppy review, but I still like to rant and ramble however I please when I can. So, see ya.